أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Today's hadith is actually a fairly simple one, but there's so many lessons we can derive from it. But let's say the hadith and you recite after me the bold part, okay? One Abi Dar radiallahu ta'ala قال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا ولو أن تلقى أخاك بوجه طلق. Abu Dhar reported the Messenger ﷺ said, "Do not disdain a good deed, no matter how small it may seem, even if it is your meeting with your Muslim brother with a cheerful face." Who can tell me the meaning of the word disdain? Let's go ahead.
To stop yourself.
Okay, what is one another one? Ignore. Belittle. Okay, so those are good ways of explaining it, but it's actually considering something or some action as unworthy of your consideration, which means that you belittle it, you ignore it, you think nothing of it, right? So the hadith says that do not belittle or disdain a good deed, even if it is very small. So I'll give you an example of the importance of good deed. Okay, the importance of good deed is actually in this hadith, where Allah Ta'ala in the Hadith Qudsi is where Allah reveals. Everyone, focus here, please. Allah reveals through Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and He says it in His own words. He says, Allah will say, "O son of Adam, I asked you for food and you fed me not." And He will say, "O Allah, how could I feed you when you are the Lord of the worlds?" And Allah will say, "Did you not know my servant so and so was in need of food and you did not feed him? Did you not know that if you had fed him, you would have found that to have been for me?" Which means that when you feed somebody, you satisfy the person's hunger, but you do that for the sake of Allah, and Allah keeps count of it, right? So it's a visiting the sick, feeding the hungry, like quenching somebody's thirst when they ask for water. Although those are very, very small deeds, it's very important to Allah because you're doing it for His sake. Throughout our life, Allah creates opportunity. When you help somebody, when you behave properly, all of these are opportunities that Allah creates, and these and this whole life is full of opportunities for us. And what is the opportunity for? Anybody tell me what the opportunities are for? Okay, that is to earn His rewards, right? The ultimate reward is Jannah, and which is where we all want to be. But remember that it is important to do this for the sake of Allah only, which brings me to the concept of Riya. What is Riya? Show off, okay. Anything else? To boast, okay. It is doing your deeds for the sake of earning the recognition of your fellow human beings, right? You do a good deed for him. He likes you for a minute, he likes you for an hour, he likes you for weeks. But then ultimately what? He forgets about it, right? Even if you've done a deed directly that's so big, you do it only for helping your friend, but not for the sake of Allah, he'll remember it for a year, he might remember it for 5 years. But after that, it's going to fade from memory and he's no longer going to have, he's no longer going to remember that you did it for him. But if you do it for Allah's sake, that's a big difference. What is that difference? He will remember it, he will not forget it, and he will keep count for you. If you did a good deed for somebody and that person happens to have used that because you helped him in that circumstance, he gets better and he does other good deeds, maybe Allah will multiply our original deed for something that's much, much higher. So you might turn up on the day of judgment and see a mountain of like good deeds. Like, where is this from? Hey, this is for feeding the hungry. That person got better. He got a good job. He earned, he gave sadaqah. Somewhere along the way, your initial investment or initial contribution led to that, and Allah is keeping count for you, right? Think about every single thing that has an opportunity to multiply in Allah's eyes. Go ahead. Sadaqah Jariya is something that you do. It's an ongoing charity, correct? That could be you earn it here or you earn it after you die, but it continues. There's an example of that. There is, I heard this somewhere that there is still a bank account in Saudi Arabia for one of our Khulafai Rashidun, Uthman. So he was a very generous man. So he had some date fields that he basically said, I want to give this to charity. So somebody had the thing where everything that would be collected would be used to feed the poor, build schools, build hospitals, so on and so forth. To this day, 1400 years later, that account is still there. So can you imagine the kind of rewards that he's earning? Like it just goes on for 1400, it's compounds. So when you're in Jannah, it could be that he is a shooting star. He's a star way above us because of what he's done. But that means that that opportunity is there for us also. That we do our good deeds, and Allah Ta'ala multiply for us. So we're talking about small good deeds here, right? What are small good deeds? Things that like we don't think too much about it, but it's good regardless, right? Some of the examples are removing an obstacle on the road. And I don't suggest that people go out into the road and pick up branches. There could be a car coming. So you got to be safe while doing it, right? For instance, on a walkway, on the sidewalk, if something is there, a stone is there, a branch is there, you can move that out so that other people don't get harmed by it, right? So that's one of the things that you can do. Keeping the place clean. And this is something that we all are guilty of. If there are tissue papers lying around, there are plates lying around, pencils lying around, put them in its appropriate places. Like the used tissue can go in the garbage, the pencil should be back in the pencil holder, the books and the papers and all that should be in a shelf, right? We should do that. The other one is being well behaved all of the time, right? Not just when your parents are around, but when you are with your friends. Usually what happens is there's a lot of noise, and more likely than not, somebody around you is affected. Somebody's not able to do their work, they're not able to have a conversation on the phone, they're not able to do certain things because you're loud. Keeping yourself quiet and well behaved for the sake of Allah, or even like by itself, is actually a good deed. And when you do that, and when you consciously do that, that's actually a good thing that works for you. Treating your parents with respect. So we see a lot of situations where you shout at your parents and you're very kind to your friends. You shout at your parents, but you're kind to complete strangers. But you have to be respectful of your parents, and that's actually a good deed. Treating complete strangers with respect. Just because you don't know somebody at the store, somebody on the street, doesn't mean that you act weirdly around them. Have respect. Be respectful of strangers, just as you would be with your friends. And also say good things or keep quiet. It's very easy, right? But a lot of people are guilty of this. They talk about people behind their backs, and you know that when you have a friend, let's say, and that person did something last week and he's embarrassed about it. But if you bring it up to another friend, although all three of you are friends, it's likely that person is embarrassed. He thought everyone forgot about it, but you brought this back. That's not a good thing. It's better to keep quiet about those things than talk about it. And the other thing is greeting your neighbors. Like even if it's waving hi with a smiling face, that's actually a good thing. That's actually a good deed for you. And also encourage other people to do good. If you see a friend not doing something when he has an opportunity to do that, you should encourage him to do that. But also remember that when you tell somebody to do something, make sure that you also do it. Otherwise you'd be what? That's exactly right. You'll be a hypocrite. So these are the few examples that I can give. But let's say the examples that you can do that is very easy, and all of us go to the masjid, right? These are things that you can do at the masjid that is very easy to earn the rewards. One is This is not just in the masjid, but this the easiest of them is say Bismillah before you do anything at all. You come into the class, you start writing something before you eat your food, before you start a test. You say Bismillah, and that earns a reward for you. That's a small deed, and this is the easiest, right? You're just moving your thing. Even if you don't understand the consequences of it, say it so it becomes a habit, and at some point you will catch on why that is important. And you will see that some of those things that you do have better outcomes, and you may not necessarily understand why it went well, but if you said Bismillah, Allah Ta'ala looks out for you. Be the first to say salams. So two of you meet, the person who says Assalamu alaikum first actually has a higher reward than the person who returns the salam. That's also something that's very easy, right? And the third one is when you do wudu, don't fly through it in like 15 seconds. A lot of people do. I used to do that when I was a kid. Every part that's required to be wet is wet, but you don't know how you got through it. So don't use too much water, but be very mindful, be very conscious of what part of your body you're washing and understand why you're doing it. You're doing it to purify yourself for prayer, for reading Quran, so on and so forth, right? Or even just to be in a state of wudu. But take it in a very slow and deliberate manner so that it counts for you. And every time that you ponder about it, even if you think, even for a couple of seconds that you're doing it for the sake of Allah, it counts for you. It's a good deed for you. It's a small deed that is good for you. And when people enter the masjid, you see some people praying sunnah, even though it's not the time for fard prayer, right? What is that? Anyone tell me what that is? What is it called? It's called Tahiyatul Masjid, where you give the masjid its due right, and you also benefit from it. So it's just 2 rakahs, and you can pray with the shortest of surahs in those 2 rakahs. Yes, go ahead. No, I'm talking about the Tahiyatul Masjid, not the fard prayer. The fard prayer should be as long as you can make it. Okay. The other one that's easy is when you turn up at the masjid early, if there is space in the front row, go ahead and take it. You've earned it, right? That's actually a good deed that counts for you. Being in the first row, even if that's the only row that's there, that counts for you. But especially if you're early in a prayer that's actually going to be filled, for instance, Jummah or the Isha prayer in some of the masajids are actually, they have 2 and 3 lines. If you're in the first line, you've earned it. But don't step over people to get to the first line. That doesn't count, right? So get to the first line by being there early. That's a good deed. And the Imam constantly keeps saying, fill the gap, be shoulder to shoulder, don't leave any gaps for shaitan. That simple act of moving left or right to fill that gap is a good deed. And again, these small things that you do throughout your life, like I said, this life is full of opportunities to earn the rewards of Allah. And the rewards of Allah are big, it's not small. But we don't know where the small deed will end up. We might need it for a lot of different things because we commit sins other times. Maybe these small things will actually take us away from those sins that we commit later on in life. So actually forming a habit with all of these things is actually beneficial for us in ways that we do not understand, but Allah knows. So use Allah's multiplying factor. Allah always multiplies things like 10-fold or 70-fold, right? Think about that. If you do one thing now, it multiplies 10-fold or 70-fold or 700-fold. If you do that in Ramadan, and let's actually keep our accounts full with this, right? Full with things that are beneficial to us, but that cost us literally nothing to do, right? So may Allah Ta'ala make us beneficial human beings for people around us, and also admit us into Jannah because of that and by His mercy, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.